Is there anything else that we haven't talked about so far? I know there are a ton of other issues that we might want to hit, but what would you...
Well, let me just say one of the big current public topics is the city's involvement in the redevelopment of initiating the redevelopment of the Post Oak Mall. And I think you've read about that in the paper, and the city has committed to purchasing, subject to our last due diligence, the old Macys building. We've been looking at ways for 7 or 8 years to do something to help the mall emerge as something different and new. That everybody I've talked to in the city, every public meeting we've had on redevelopment, they all put their finger on Post Oak Mall. So the city is making a very careful commitment with a strategic plan, things we can't discuss. And so when a private deal fell through, we stayed out of it initially, but private deal fell through to buy the Macys. We decided that we needed to take a position on that corner and protect that whole corner there. It's 7.5 acres, and so we paid $7.3 or $4 million for that, and we are now controlling the parking area and trying to prevent it from being carved up into pad sites until we bring the private investors and other public entities together. We're very much interested in the redevelopment of the mall.
What do you want to be there? Because I was curious about that.
Certainly we want retail to be there.
Right.
We want the retailers who are there to be successful. We want to add things that will generate traffic.
Okay.
Some of the original proposals, they were going to put storage buildings in there, where you're having all your storage stuff in there. And that would just kill them all. Once you start doing things like that, it doesn't generate any traffic. It blocks it off. We see possible entertainment venues, possible city recreation opportunities. But there are other private interests that come in there. It isn't just about us selling it to another big box retailer. That probably is not likely, and everybody's suggested, what are you doing buying that? You're going to try to market it to another big box retailer? If one came along, we'd certainly consider it, but that's a very narrow window and not likely to happen. So there's other opportunities for the entire mall area, and if we can do something to stimulate it, that's what our belief is. We paid well into the appraised value, which was 6.4 to 11.4 million. We paid 7.3 or 4 for it. So we're well within that current appraised value level. The original buyers got it at fire sale. When the bankers told Macys, you got to come up with the money, and they have 25 of these things going on all over the country, they just sold them off for whatever they could get initially. That's why the investors from California got it for $3 million.
Got it.
And we stayed out of it then because we thought those people had a good plan. But their deal fell apart, and they put it back on the market. Yeah, they turned a nice profit, but we're still in it at, I think, a value that is well within the appraisal level, and I think we can energize much larger investments in the mall that we can't, it's not something, we can't talk about real estate or any of the people that are involved in all of that, but we're hoping in a reasonable amount of time, within 6 months to 2 years, you'll see some of that happening.